Welcome, everybody. I am Reverend Shay McKay, and I'm one of the ministers here at Church-Unitarian, and I welcome you into this space, into this place today, which we make sacred by coming together to honor and remember a beautiful life. So I welcome you. You are welcome here with whatever you bring today and whatever you may need from today. And now I will have Johanna come do our opening words.
Hi, everyone. I'm Johanna Bear Armstrong, and I am a minister and friend of Pamela's, and she asked me to help preside over the service today, and I feel incredibly honored to do that. There are no new words to say about death. There is nothing new that we could possibly say about death in our human history. And so we don't gather today to say new things to each other. We gather because somewhere in our human history, eons ago, someone somewhere decided that humans gathering is innately good and innately human. And so we gather today because we loved Richard and because we love Pamela. And that is a good reason to gather. It doesn't have to be new. It doesn't have to be Hallmark card sympathy. It is what it is. And we are here to honor Richard and Pamela together. Thank you so much for attending today and for celebrating this amazing life. This is an incredible opportunity that we have to send someone out on their continuing journey as we all become part of this one big love thing that is out here in the world that Richard is now a light guiding us toward. I would like to introduce Jerry Dearly. Jerry is a spiritual and cultural educator, elder, and friend of Richard and Pamela. To say the prayer.
He hung off there. Got loud enough, but they wanted me to use it. One time I got kicked out of a courthouse because I wouldn't stand up because the judge came in. And I said, why in the world should I stand up for someone who's going to judge me and judge people? Did I commit a crime? I probably did. That's from Wounded Knee. But that's when I'm a recovering Catholic, so I don't I'm not really a part of anything organized as much as this. But I do remember that years ago, I found out there is a God and I'm not him. So one of the things that I do know is this way of this pipe. Prior to 1492, the only thing that we had was here. Now all the immigrants that came after that brought these, because that's the only way you know. That if you come in here, maybe you'll find something. But it took me probably about 25 years of drinking alcohol and anything else And then now, standing here on my 29th year of sobriety, I said, I have a white man's disease. So I'm going to do what the white man does and get well using his methods. Maybe I'll be able to go back to my original way of life. So one of the things that I did was I hitchhiked here in 1977 when the Greyhound bus station was located right where I think they're for infants and youth courthouse downtown, right across the street from that restaurant everybody goes to, Mickey's Diner. Then right along Mickey's Diner side was a bunch of bars. I love that. Because being an alcoholic, you know. But I really have to tell you that because my name is Lukewarm Water. I always say that. And I reside in a place of 11,851 lakes and 10,000 treatment centers. That's why I've been sober going on 29 years. And the order that may be here is I don't need to come into a building to be a part of anything because the whole area of life I accepted as being a part of this land that originally belonged to the indigenous people. And then upon many of the 1492 individuals that came here were hunting us down. Of course, I wasn't born then, but you know that a lot of thoughts was I went to University of North Dakota, one of the most prejudiced colleges of education to me because I went to school there. I went there because it was University of North Dakota, Sioux. And I thought that was pretty good because I'm a Lakota. And I found out that it was a mascot. So it was kind of interesting. I came out of there in 72. Then right after that, I went into Wounded Knee. Because white men speak with a forked tongue. When gold was discovered in Lee Deadwoodens, all the treaties are broken and they built that road just to get that ore that still today exists. I look up at the 4 presidents and I said the 4 thieves, because they're the ones that concocted whatever orders they were to take our land. Then every reservation in the state of Minnesota, there's only 7, and the 4 Dakota communities over here with Shakopee, Metabakotu, and the Tintawita, Prairie Island, Upper Sioux, which is way over there, Pajutahuzizi, which is Morton, Upper Sioux, and Lower Sioux, Chashaapi. I grew up learning by language. I did not know English. And for that, spurred the interest of education for me. So that's why I came out of the College of Education, University of North Dakota. And I began to take some of the things to heart of why I hitchhiked here. Because of my influence of being with the American Indian movement, that I had a target on my back. Nobody would hire me. My own people wouldn't hire me. So I hitchhiked here with my son's mother, a Potawatomi Indian from Michigan, Bradley to be specific, around Lansing area. That's where I know when I got off the Greyhound bus, I saw Mickey's Diner. I didn't know what it was, but that was where the bus station was. And that next Monday, Eli Ben Benet, with the ceremony they had right there, I didn't know what was going on. They had a fire going. And I know that my brother Steve was outside with the sage. And I was watching through the window, and some of you were kind of scared of that sage. And as smoke was going up, I started to smile. Because a lot of you do not understand the Native people yet. To this day, this is the 21st century. So that's why I love it when I pick this up, because last night I was teaching a 1-hour lecture to administrators, teachers in the Rochester public school system. I've been retired 11 years, but after that I went to teach about 50 parents and children about Native American history and culture, how valuable it is. Because there is a law that peanut farmer signed in 1978 when the longest walk came about, that's called the Freedom of Religion Act, where we could actually burn sage inside. I noticed that Steve shut off all the sage when he was coming in, because sage is not allowed here, and you call it Unitarian Church. So you probably look at your bylaws a little bit further sometime, and you'll find out. Because in the St. Paul public school system, even though I was retired, there's a referendum with the board that said any school, they can burn sage for themselves in the St. Paul public school system. And this is the only place, and we put 4 eagle feathers downtown at 360 Coburn by the flag, and that is the native flag that we have down there. Go off 7th Street and take a left at the McDonald's and go east. You run right into 360 Coburn, look up, you'll see those feathers up there, along with the flag of the red, white, and blue. So along the way, continuing drinking, but still was hired at 1 o'clock that Monday morning to teach social studies and American Indian studies and math. So I began studying here, working with children, but learning about the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Chippewa people, their way of life. Then I know that there were 7 Ojibwe reservations, of which 1, Red Lake, is sovereign. They kicked me off of Red Lake because I was part of a Sundance years ago with Chris Lease, and they kicked me off of there. And they could do that because they're in charge. So that's my story of how I live this way now with this pipe. A lot of you do not understand any of what I just said. But that's okay, because I didn't come here to really do too much except to have the family members pray with this pipe. Then I will just take this pipe, and I will take my bag, get my jacket, and I'll leave. Then you guys can take care of things. But I know this couple, they got married here, I think in 1988 or 89. And you wouldn't understand the prayers I'm going to say. But I'd like the family, is this the family sitting here? What I'd like you to do is, this man here was also a recovering alcoholic. And my brother Steve, he brought some of the weakest coffee I ever drank this morning. So Reason why I know I call him my brother Steve is we had a ceremony, and I invited him to be a part of my family because he's a sun dancer too, like I am. Many people to take care of this pipe that belongs to all of you, irregardless of the strife that your people, the white man, did for us. We still recognize the four directions of the black, the yellow, the red, and the white man. So kind of in that way, I'm going to take this pipe out. I already filled it because I kind of thought if I filled it here, they'd probably call the fire department, or the fire department probably come here. So these are the rules. Even though it's still under law that I can do this, this is your area. That's why I respect that. But I wanted you to know a little bit about the history of our people. And as I said before, this pipe belongs to you. I stay sober. I keep helping people in the community. This is why I have went on a hill for 4 days and 4 nights without food or water. I sundanced 4 days without food or water. And I always challenge the ministers, what have you done except have the money to build this? But you have to do something, which I had to in my culture, to be able to take care of this pipe. I had to suffer. I had to do many things to qualify myself, not on paper, but in the eyes of the Creator of all things. So Pam, and if this is all the family, this is already filled. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to pray. I'm not even going to put any sage down because my brother took care of that already. And I already took care of this morning. Our friend here is why you're here. Pray for him and his journey. Some of the many things I know is they don't have the full bodies anymore. They burn them up. So it's kind of interesting how I kind of come into the 20th century, 21st century, and boy, these guys are burning up their people. But that's just the way it is now. So I have to accept a lot of things. But that doesn't mean I have to come to church every day. Like I'm a recovering Catholic, so I know things go on with or without me, which is really good. And this is the only time I'm going to be here, I'm sure, but out of respect for the family here. I always say that organized religion is for people who don't want to go to hell. Spirituality is for people who've been there. And you think about that, that comes from one of the analogs of Alcoholics Anonymous, the second edition. Interesting, huh? All right, Pam, is this all the family here? Brothers and... Okay, yeah, you can stay there. You can stay there. ahitua he yankelo, Chekiayo, Chekiayo, ahitua he yankelo, We are here patakia etuayo netro kashila ahitua he yankelo Chekiayo, Chekiayo, ahitua he yankelo Ito kahatakia etuayo netro kasila ahitua he yankelo Chekiayo, Chekiayo, ahitua he yankelo hoi. Tunkasila, shungwani tu. Tranka, ian. Le wachewitichi. Tunkasila kantankan petu kiledokit ke aglabheti. Dan akipo. Namakata ke alkimukani presle de alilu ni chwapiki. Prakas yo. Não, que te roupa na boca. Leva para tu que lhe chumani tu ska iam. E tia cha. O cha sa que lhe pateu que te chape na wanao. Que glacha. É a pateu que te chape na ocean que te lavalo. Ocean que la pena. O que abo. The rest may sit down. Family members, stay up. Please, as I ask you to pray with this quiet. Shunka Manitu Ian. Shunka is a dog, and Manitu is Ojibwe for creator, and Ian is stone. So that's kind of his native name. Shunka Manitu Ian. And he did, him and Pam, they want to say it that way too. Give it to Steve. Steve's right here. What it holds that, it's kind of like the way everybody holds a Bible, I guess you might say. And you say whatever you need to say. This is a pipe that was given to me and made by the person to take care of, and I've taken care of this for 15 years now. Before that I had another pipe, but I gave that one away. And I always say, relatives, pray for the one that you wish to have these prayers taken with you. I appreciate all of you relatives of this couple here that asked me to come here. He has a real good sense of humor, because he came over to my house and we both sat there and he was always laughing. I remember him like that. But I also had respect for him because, we understood when we are alcoholics. I have one more song. You may be seated when you're done. I have one more song to take it home. It says, my friend, where are you? All your relatives have come. They're looking for you. Where are you? Shukamani to Ian. Where are you? So this is for him in his travels. Olato Kailale, Kiata, Oni Chile, Pelo, Hoi, Wea Kola, Wana Tatu, Topalana, Kiara City. And to Xella, La Kolu Chokak, another Hao, we touch at a hole. You have Shuka, money to Ina and Nika Gabalo. But Tahena Kixuya, Wana, Hechata, Kiwak, Henicha, Tatako, Kela, Koya, a petty now, Toliano, Jacola, Hewochi Jakina. But he chayo na ni kaiti to the so ni kaiti the opia oil hechata. Wana ishna la iacha. Wachewa kina hotai michina. Wachi kambichelo. Well, kola he ha owaki. He ha la la migalusha. Da omanina. Ni kita kule ke ochu kiala. Nisha. Dala chumo pila prima. Pilama Ella Kola, Richard Wallace, Watson, Wopila Achichi. Oeche Duela Makasi Dolia, Omakasi Opera. Wamakashkami at the Nawakote Kodaya, Nahatakush Kanskami Wakamiki, Mitaku. I want to say thank you to all of you. You may be seated back there. So I appreciate it. These are the prayers that we say, and we used to have Indian churches here like there. I don't know if you guys live in St. Paul. Remember Mazakute Church? Does anybody remember that? Off of Rice Street. There's kind of a church in the back there. And that used to be with Father and Pastor Bobtail Bear used to be there. Then there was another father and pastor, Reverend Foote, used to be there too. And these are from the Episcopal way of life. So there used to be that, and then since people weren't going there anymore, and they closed everything up. So, organized religion just really doesn't, from the native perspective, work here in the Twin Cities. Everybody's too strong. So it's kind of one-sided. So that's kind of where we have ceremonies in Prairie Island and South Dakota. There's some people that I've met at a Sundance before in Eagle Beach, South Dakota. And I just implore all of you to help this lady here. She's a really, really good person. She likes to talk a lot, but she's a really good person. And what we usually do is remember that they're going to be by themselves. But any one of you have compassion, I'm sure you do. But in this time and this time of strife and mourning, is to sit down with her and take her some food, feed her. I don't think she's going to have the time to really cook and, like for her husband here. I asked the husband to come back and take care of his wife from the other spirit side. And the spirit world on the other side, organized religion calls them heaven or hell. But our ceremonies never told us that. I don't know what they're talking about. When we go to our ceremony, we don't know. We don't really know. So we have to understand and respect all of you in the way you live your life. One day at a time, just like each and every one of us. And I say Wopila and Lakota. And around here they say Miigwech, Chimigwech. And then Mexican they say muchas gracias. But I just thought I'd throw that in. Maybe he probably took a Spanish class years ago. But anyway, I'll take my leave at this time and do what you need to do. And follow what it is that is next. And I forgot to say, we don't follow protocol. So I could have been over here another 2 hours and probably could have went to sleep. I'm not going to tell you that. But when you have the humor that goes along with life, that's what he was all about. He was always laughing. And it was kind of neat to know that. So I take my leave at this time, and you can probably put your chair back over there.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to invite you now to rise if you are willing and able. In the pew in front of you is a gray hymnal. We're going to sing together number 38.
You may all be seated. Thank you so much again to our elder Jerry for such a wonderful moment in our service remembering Richard today. Next, we're moving into some remembrances with a reminder that during the reception time, there will be opportunity to share stories and anecdotes about Richard. There's a whole microphone and everything. You'll really be on the spot. So now's your chance. I am doing a reading for Lois Minot, who is Pamela's sister. And this is a reading for Rich's Circle of Life service today. These are Lois's words. I want to be super clear about that. If you knew Rich for any length of time, you know his sense of humor and his playful nature. Pamela and Rich shared a herd of stuffies, as they like to call them, collected, gathered, and strategically moved around the apartment, catching them in the most unusual places. Always laughter and playfulness with those naughty stuffies, teddy bears and beanie babies alike. Rich liked to gather. He enjoyed listening to the long ago, long stories of aunties, uncles, grandparents, elders. He could listen for hours. He loved to call his stepmom Glenise and his sister Nancy. He dearly missed his sister Leah and his brother John. Music was in his heart, a melody of love, his first recording, played over and over again with Pamela, elders, and his family and friends. He loved wide open. He had the gift of knowingness. He noticed people who might need tending to in a crowd. He would throw his imaginary net over the person who was a bit lost and disconnected, collecting them and offering his gentle, weird humor to help them feel a part of that moment. He created a deep sense of belonging and connection with all those that he would meet. His mischievousness, like a small child tagging along, never very far behind. Being naughty, spontaneous, and playful was his guiding principle through his challenges with health this last year. Rich was trustworthy. Like the first sip of coffee from the J.S. Bean Factory, you knew right from the start, Rich was quality. Trustworthy, funny, playful, mischievous, musically inclined, loving, kind, caring. We were gifted with his strong and consistent light. May we all notice that naughty, playful, spontaneous energy around us, because Rich's spirit will be tagging not too far behind us. And a reminder to all of you as you exit the service today to head toward the reception, everyone is invited to please take home a stuffy from the basket as you leave the sanctuary. What a gift. I'd now like to invite Rich's 40-year friend, Fred Schroeder, up to read his words.
I guess I'm over 40-year-old Fred Schroeder. It will be of no surprise to anybody that knew Rich, and I have never gotten used to the Richard, and certainly not Richard Wallace. And Nancy, you're going to have to explain to me that at some point. I met Rich in a bar. In fact, we were both working in a bar. And he recognized a kindred spirit and enticed me one day to help him change a keg down in the cooler. And when I got down there, he pulled out his hash pipe. And this is a 3-2 beer joint, so you had to have something to supplement the lack of alcohol. And we did. And it started there, and it kept on going. So I met Rich, I believe, in 1982, which would, I think, be about right, shortly before your mother died. And he was an interesting guy. I had done my journey with alcoholism and drugs and all that, and I sobered up, and Rich didn't. And I always felt shortchanged that he wasn't joining me in that. So I used to haul him out of his apartment when I had to go to a meeting. And I was telling Nancy, I just a quick one. I took him to an afternoon meeting one day, and elected not to tell him that it was a meeting of St. Paul police officers that were drunks, and he had a pocket full of drugs, and he got a little tense when we got up in the room, and I had to assure him they weren't going to arrest him or anything. But, you know, we started our journey in AA about the same time. Rich became part of my family at Thanksgiving dinners, and he would always be invited to attend, and he did. And he was usually the guy that would say grace until he got in touch with his Native American spiritualism. And then he would always, him and Pamela would put food outside and for the spirits, I think. I'm not quite sure how that worked, but it was food I didn't get to eat. But he was multifaceted. He was a man of tremendous intellect. I don't think a lot of people understood how bright Rich was. And he touched a million different things. The Native American spiritualism being one of them. Certainly, he was big in AA. I got him involved in some service work with Gopher State Roundup, which is big in Minnesota. And he ended up on the board there, which was no surprise. He was on the board and the steering committee at Highland AA. And while alcoholism itself is an ugly, serious disease, you better know how to have fun in there. And if you didn't know how to have fun, you did not belong around Rich. As evidence that the picture on the front of the memorial it captured him. It just captured him. He was a joyful man, even in the physical problems that he ended up having. Him and Pamela spent probably virtually every Christmas, New Year's Eve at our house, and he would bring little wind-up toys. And I was Rich. And we had stocking stuffers that we shared, and Rich insisted that we go through the stocking stuffers before anything else went on. So he'd pull out one thing at a time from the stocking, and he would hand it to my wife, myself, or after a while, our daughter, Kate. And, you know, it was just what he did, but he had fun with each of them. He'd wind up the toys, and we'd have to sit and watch how it worked. And then go across the dining room table, and that little monkey that would do somersaults, and he'd just sit there and laugh. And he had such fun with that. And he's compassionate. Our daughter wanted a cat. We had a dog. We had a golden retriever named Cooper, but she wanted a cat. So we got a cat. And I didn't know it at the time, but Rich was allergic to cats. Well, the cat had to go to Rich and Pamela's house until Christmas morning, where they brought it over in a sack. And it was still alive. And Rich's eyes are swollen just about shut. And I'm going, what's wrong? And he said, I'm allergic to cats. I said, well, you could have told me that, but that wasn't his nature. He just, that's what I'm going to do. So, Nebraska. I would not do well without speaking of Nebraska and Rich's love of anything that involved Nebraska. I had the good fortune on either his 25-year anniversary or mine, I can't remember. His father comped him the family tickets to a Huskers game. And I had a Chrysler 300 with a Hemi, and Rich and I went on a road trip. And I probably had 500 songs loaded onto the drive of that thing. And we sang all the way there and all the way back, off key and terribly, but just laughed. And he knew what he knew. Those of you who know him well, he was a stubborn man. He was a stubborn man. And we were having dinner in Omaha, and he said, this is where they invented the Reuben sandwich. I said, no, I've been to Katz Deli in Manhattan, and that's where they invented the Reuben sandwich. And he wouldn't take no for an answer. And finally I got back home and looked it up, and sure enough, there was a dispute over where the Reuben sandwich was invented or made. He was also my earring partner. I would buy earrings, and both Rich and I had a pierced ear, so I'd give him one, and he'd get an earring, and he'd give me one. And I talked to Pamela, we got red ends when we were at the Huskers game, and I can't find it. It has gone the way of many earrings that lost a post. But I had a lot of fun with him. My whole family had a lot of fun with him. His humor and his compassion and his intelligence are what always struck me with Rich. Just a bright, fun-loving man. He will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you so much, Fred, for sharing about your time with Richard. Rich. And you're welcome. I'd love to invite Nancy Watson, Rich's sister, up to share her words now.
Well, I'm going to, what nobody's mentioned yet, that Rich loved to write, and he wrote prolifically. And you kind of had to get into his brain to kind of understand sometimes what he was writing. But when I went through some of his things, I found a poem that he wrote to my grandmother. And I really don't know if it was Grandma Preston or Grandma Watson, and I don't know what year it was, but I'd like to read the poem. And it's called Happiness Is. Happiness is being alive. Happiness is the feeling of work, like bees in a hive. Happiness is joy. Happiness is the feeling of love, of joy, of a little boy and his new toy. Happiness is love. Happiness is being cared for by your parents and by the Lord above. Happiness is to some a new car. Happiness to others is closing a bar. Happiness to me is the love I get from the ones I love and the feeling that the Lord loves me. And the only other thing that people haven't mentioned, and I'd just like to mention, is he had a memory that went back so far. He texted me within the last month. New question. What year was the musical Oliver at St. Mary's High School? Hammond, question mark. And I'm going to ask you, Beth, what that meant. And I texted him back, no idea. Curious reason you are asking. 50 years ago, last summer, I was in a choir touring Europe, and that's what motivated me. Barbara B. got me thinking. Tried the Independent, failed. That's the little paper in O'Neill. He was trying to check this out. I'll try Little Sister, a Bug. I'm like going, where did this come from? That was my brother. Thank you.
And thank you so much, Nancy, for sharing those lovely memories and writings of Rich's. And now I would like to ask Reverend Shea to come up, and she is going to share readings from Jilly, Pamela's sister, and Dan Watson, Rich's nephew.
Jilly can't be here today. She's in the UK. She writes this. My heart goes out to you, and I am so sad that Rich has passed. I've been thinking of him and praying for him for a long time now, feeling helpless against his pain. He was so brave and so frightened, and each day brought more pain and discomfort. It softens the loss to know that he is no longer suffering. My memories of Rich revolve around a mischievous, warm, and loving smile and twinkling eyes. His love and appreciation of you, my dearest soul sister, brought him close to my heart. He kindly brought me an airline ticket so that I could attend your wedding from London. So generous in terms of the gift and in terms of understanding the special bond between us. He was tender, kind, and had a warm sense of humor. I shall miss his love sent to me on every phone call between us each week. I'm thinking of you, my dearest Pamela, as you grieve your great loss. Take your time to go through the different stages and keep thinking of all the good times you shared with him. And these words are from Dan Watson, Rich's nephew. Rich was the kind of uncle you'd find in a children's book, warm, whimsical, and curious. With no kids, his connection with us cousins offered a different kind of closeness. He had the space to share his world with us, his interests, his stories, his full attention. And with Pam by his side, their life together in the Twin Cities showed me a different world than what I was used to as a small-town kid from Iowa. I remember learning about new things that somehow felt both familiar and unfamiliar at the same time, things that were distinctly Uncle Rich. He introduced me to the art I never knew existed, Tolkien, the beliefs of the native peoples of the Northern Plains, and the mystery of wolves. As a kid, it was thrilling. Instead of one present for Christmas, you'd get about 20 individually wrapped little presents. Each one chosen with care and love, added up to something far greater than the sum of its parts. We looked forward to the little leather bags filled with Native American items just as much as the year's most popular toys. Though he spent most of his life in Minnesota, Rich was unmistakably Nebraskan. I remember driving the lesser-known highways near O'Neill, Nebraska, and watching in awe as he navigated them with ease, despite having been away for nearly 40 years. He knew exactly where to find native sweetgrass and wildflowers. It was incredible. When I was younger, I may have gotten bored of hearing Rich retell the same story about some Watson lineage for the 5th or 6th time. But he made it a point to know where he came from and to let it contribute to his overall story. He always seemed to know and be excited about his place in the family tree. It reminds us that when someone like Rich leaves this world, we lose more than a person. We lose the stories and the unique knowledge of a place or family that they took responsibility for and helped preserve. He knew my dad, his brother John, better than almost anyone. When my dad passed away, Rich's sentimental nature and emotional wisdom came through. He knew what to say and how to say it. That time is a blur in my memory, but I'll never forget how Uncle Rich made me feel comforted and understood. I've always been inspired by Rich's values and sense of self. He knew who he was and was unquestionably proud of it. He found his place in the world, which, in the grand scheme of things, is all anyone can ask for. He found his place, his people, his values, and loved them with gentleness and without judgment, a love that will always make me smile, and he will be greatly missed.
Thank you so much, Shay, for reading the lovely, precious words of Sister Jilly and nephew Dan. And now I would like to invite the amazing, lovely Miss Pamela up to share some of her own words for... Yeah, I see you looking around. Yes, I'm talking directly to you. Yes. Yes, please come up and share your thoughts and words about Rich.
I was looking around for the amazing, lovely wife, but I guess you're stuck with me. If I don't do this well, I'm going to turn it over to Shay or Joey. I'm just so happy to see you all here. Richard Wallace Watson, there's some things I wanted to say about him. For example, he fell in love with me when I taught him how to feed a butterfly, and he never forgot that. He was just stunned speechless because we were out at Taylor's Falls. I put a little sugar water on my finger and said, well, you know, you can, because there were monarch butterflies around, and they said, we can feed one, you know, not honey, because honey is really bad for butterflies. And he had never experienced that before, and he never forgot it. He never forgot, this is the woman who, he would tell people, she taught me to feed a butterfly. So that was really sweet, out at Taylor's Falls. And I started to fall in love with him, although I didn't know it at the time, when we were both at Ramsey County Detox speaking as people who were allowed to leave, as opposed to those who had to stay for 24 or 48 hours. Richard had been one of the privileged who had to stay for 24 or 46 or 36 hours, but at that point he was sober. And I heard this man speak, as I'd heard others speak, but there was something so engaging about him. As he was completely unaware of himself, and you could see the only people he cared about were the people that he was trying to speak to. And there was just something about his, it's hard to explain, but he was so unaware of himself, and that was so, it was really beautiful. And I thought this was a very appealing and interesting person. And I never forgot that. Sometime later, when we had spent time with other groups of people, and again I saw what a really special person he was, I asked him if we could be friends, and he said we could. So that was the start of our romance. One of Richard's funny stories that he liked to tell at my expense was that one of his last trips out of town, or actually anywhere out of the apartment for that matter, was to a Van Morrison concert in Las Vegas. And it was absolutely fabulous. We didn't know if we'd be able to make it, but it was kind of like do or die. But as we got back, we didn't feel good and discovered we both had we had COVID. So he loved to tell people, yeah, I took her to a Van Morrison concert. She gave me COVID. I just thought that was just so funny. He was a dreamer. He dreamt regularly, and he remembered his dreams. And he listened to the spirits. He had a lot of voices that spoke to him, and he would try to listen and think whether there was something there he should pay attention to. He adored his family and friends. He's a very loyal family member and a very loyal friend. Loved music, everything. Carter family, gospel, country, rock, the blues, particularly Van Morrison, who I will thank to my dying days, because Van Morrison was his companion 24 hours a day during the harder periods of his last couple of years or last years of his life. He was never ashamed to tell anybody who he was. He was very open about his recovery and his time as a drug addict and alcoholic. He would get into fights because people would see this big guy and they'd want to challenge him just because he was bigger. So he always said he learned to act crazier than the people around him, because then they would leave him alone. Let's see. He... during probably a couple of years after we were married, somebody reached out to him to offer him the presidency of a small rural bank. And Rich was somebody who believed that banking was to do with helping families have a home. You know, it gets a bad rap now, but his experience was that bankers were people who, you know, they had a job like everybody else, and it was how they performed that service was up to the individual. And he saw it as a way that people could provide it, you know, to enhance their life in some way that they couldn't do alone. And he was offered the presidency of a small rural bank by the president and the board of trustees, and he thought about it, but I had recently started therapy for some family of origin violence that I'd experienced, and it was very, very difficult. And he, as his usual, really dear husband and partner, he turned that down, even though it was a real big opportunity and one that spoke to him. But he just told them, I can't move my family right now, which was a very tender choice, you know. Let's see. Okay. Two small things, very short. He tried to commit suicide because he couldn't live with who he was and how his life was. But during that process, as he tried to kill himself, his mother spoke to him and said, "For somebody who loves life as much as you are really sick." So instead of killing himself, he went back to Ramsey County mental health counselor and said, "All right, I'll do anything," which is what he did. And around 2024, he was reviewing his life and decided to participate in a ceremony that we have in the Lakota Life Way, where you just take time away from everything and try to understand what it is you're being asked to do with your life next. So he decided to do that under the guidance of an elder, Connie Anshel Burdett, because without food or water and, it's just a real challenge. And when he came back from that, he decided that he would commit to trying to help people be well and heal, and so then he went back to school at Ramsey County, at Centerpoint Massage School, and graduated. Actually, that was 2004. I got the dates wrong. I get dates wrong all the time. In 2004, he graduated as a rehab massage therapist and opened his business called Heart Life Massage. And I love his phrase, massage for your body, mind, and spirit, so that you can follow your heart, which is always what he wanted for you and for me and for you. For us to follow our heart, follow our spirit, and love one another, as we love all of you. And you've been very patient today, and it's worth every moment. I hope it has for you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Pamela. When we were planning the memorial service, Pamela had chosen the Wendell Berry poem, "Where the Wild Things Are." I think, is that what it's called? Piece of Wild Things. And then she came last week and said, "It's just too melancholy. We need something different." And this is what we came up with. "What the Heart Cannot Forget" by Joyce Sutphin. Everything remembers something: the rock, its fiery bed, cooling and fissuring into cracked pieces, the rub of watery fingers along its edge. The cloud remembers being an elephant, a camel, a giraffe, remembers being a veil over the face of the sun, gathering itself together for the fall. The turtle remembers the sea sliding over and under its belly, remembers legs like wings escaping down the sand under the beaks of savage birds. The tree remembers the story of each ring, the years of drought, the floods, the way things came walking slowly towards it long ago. And the skin remembers its scars, and the bone aches where it was broken. The feet remember the dance, and the arms remember lifting up the child. The heart remembers everything it loved and gave away, everything it lost and found again, and everyone it loved, the heart cannot forget.
I'm Johanna, and I'm an alcoholic and addict. And I wanted to make sure I included that at some point in this, because this is a time to remember and partner with people like Rich, who leaned hard into recovery before he did the hard work of going home. I'm so thankful that you all came out today, and frankly, thankful that I was included at all. I mean, I'm a complete clown, and for some reason, Pamela thought it would be a good thing to have me involved in presiding over this service today, and I'm just so grateful. A couple things. One is, as you are exiting today after the blessing and the postlude, you will find your way to the reception hall, where there will be food and coffee from the J.S. Bean Factory, which if you haven't had it, what's wrong with you? Make sure you have some. And time for anecdotes and stories as well about Richard's life. So I hope you'll gather with us if you are able at that time. And also, please do remember to take the blessing, the gift of a stuffy as you walk out the door. None of you are too old to take a stuffy infused with Rich's contagious joy and lust for life. Right? So this blessing is going to be in two parts. The first part, I'm going to invite you to put, if you are able, to put both feet flat on the floor, to sit as comfortably as possible, to take a deep breath in through your nose and hold for 4 counts. On the last count, we will exhale as much air as possible out of our mouth as if blowing through a straw. So let's take a deep breath in. 4, 3, 2, exhale. As you do this breathing, you may close your eyes or keep them open, depending on what you feel more comfortable with. Two more deep breaths. While you do that, lower your shoulders, unclench your jaw, and we're having open hearts like Rich right now. And while you sit in this state of breathing and being present in this moment, for such a time as this, where we remember the amazing life of Rich Watson, I'm going to tell you a little story. As I tell you this story, hold on to that which sticks with you and let go of the rest. There's an old Hasidic Jewish tale of a young man who goes to his rabbi because he feels that he has accomplished every conceivable form of logic. He thinks he's just the most brilliant young guy, and he wants to go demonstrate this to the rabbi. So he walks in to see the rabbi, and he says, Rabbi, teach me how to be more like Moses and the prophets. And the rabbi says, absolutely not. Get out of here. You're wasting my time. And the young man stays put and says, no. I need to learn how to be more like Moses and the prophets. They're the heroes of our faith. Please teach me. And he says, no, I will not. Please go away. You're wasting my time. And the young man says a third time, I want to be more like Moses and the prophets. You need to teach me. I've mastered every other form of logic and philosophy and moral character. You need to teach me this one last thing. And he turns to him, and the rabbi says to the young man, I am not going to teach you how to be more like Moses and the prophets. Because when you die and appear before God, God is not going to ask you, why were you not more like Moses and the prophets? God is going to ask you, why were you not more like yourself? And with that, if you would please rise. I share that story only because there's one thing that keeps just rattling around in my skull and heart, and that is Rich cared about authenticity. And if there's one thing you take from today, I hope that it is a piece of authenticity. May Rich guide you inward toward those golden nuggets that you hold in your heart. And so, using the words of Lois, which I got to read today, which I just thought were so good, I'm going to offer you a blessing before we go into the postlude, okay? May you be, like Rich Watson, trustworthy, funny, playful, mischievous, musical, loving, kind, caring, a strong and consistent light, naughty, playful, and spontaneous. You may be seated. Thank you.
I'm going to first invite the family to walk out with me, and then Ahmed will start playing some gathering music, and you're free then to follow us out.